want to talk about certain foods that you sometimes find in health magazines that talk about relations to thyroid, but I also want to talk about zinc and selenium. Zinc and selenium are two very important nutrients when it comes to thyroid function, but also when it comes to ovarian, prostate, and breast function. I don't know if you listened to my last video, but I listed those three in the last video as well, so go listen to that. The thing about zinc and selenium is that we are very often deficient in it. Now, I can't tell you that from a lab test point of view because I don't check zinc and selenium levels in my patients. I don't believe that that test is, on that lab test, it's accurate enough for me to actually treat with the supplements, just because I see that on a lab test. And I would love for one of you out there to send me some literature and prove me wrong. Please prove me wrong. But so far, I won't test those and then go by that to dose my minerals because I don't trust it. So please prove me wrong. Selenium and zinc, you know, you find they talk about Brazil nuts. Maybe Brazil nut butter. I don't really trust the soil. And the reason I say this, I don't really trust the soil that the things are grown in now. And that used to be an excellent source of zinc and selenium and are now maybe not such an excellent source, because I do believe that our soils are depleted. Now, I don't have proof of that right here. You can probably go find epidemiological studies that talk about that, but you know why I'm really convinced that that's the case? Is because our farmers feed the cattle selenium as a supplement. Now, cattle have existed for like thousands of years without us feeding them selenium supplements. So that tells me that something happened and a soil depletion occurred so that the food that the cow is getting, they were showing signs of selenium deficiency. And so they realized that they had to supplement in order to have good quality cows, good quality meat, good quality, milk, and things like that. So that tells me that if those cows aren't getting the selenium from what they're eating from the ground, why do we think we're getting just as much selenium from our food that grows in the ground that we used to? Now, that said, I absolutely adore wild mushrooms because when you think about it, they're foraged in the forest, right? They don't have pesticides. They don't have like the crop rotation and all that stuff that depletes our minerals in our soil. They're in the forest. So they're more likely to have a good nutrient profile to them. So I absolutely adore the health benefits of wild mushrooms. And you can get dried wild mushrooms at the grocery store pretty readily. Mushrooms. So you can get mushroom, and I actually am a firm believer in the medicinal mushrooms. So like the reishi, which would be Ganoderma. You're looking at your tiger tail, your lion's mane, your chaga. Those types of medicinal mushrooms, they're not for everybody, right? Some of those can increase blood pressure. Some of those can affect you if you're on autoimmune medications. You don't want, psoriasis or any autoimmune condition you have a medication for. Be careful with the medicinal mushrooms. But at the same time, it's something that I do talk about is medicinal mushrooms, not only because of their medicinal effects, because of their phytonutrients and their polysaccharides, but also because of their minerals. And I don't necessarily get like a full mineral like profile from the medicinal mushroom powder that I recommend to my patients. But I have a belief that is a zinc and selenium supplement as well as a medicinal mushroom polysaccharide herbal supplement. I do. But just in case, I also give other things. But I don't overdose my zinc and selenium either because, there are... Like here, okay, so for example, here's a couple of signs that you might have too much selenium in your body. So if you take too much selenium in a supplement form, which is possible, you can get irritability, nausea, skin rash, nervous system problems, and kidney dysfunction or heart dysfunction. That's on the list of selenium. It's called selenium toxicity. Too much selenium. Okay. What about zinc? Well, I don't have a list here, but the thing about zinc is if you take a bunch of zinc, then it takes a little while. But like there's supplements out there that are 50 milligrams. That's a high dose of zinc. That's not a long-term dose of zinc. That's a therapeutic dose of zinc. That's a dose of zinc that I give for like 2 months, maybe 3, and then we bring the dose down. Okay? So if you're taking 50 milligrams of this zinc that you just find in the store for 3 years, you might notice that you're getting muscle cramps at night, those restless legs or Charlie horses in your legs, you might think, maybe I need some magnesium. You start taking magnesium, you feel better. But then you're hooked. And you, because of the high zinc state, there's a high need for magnesium. So then now you're taking a whole bunch of, like, way more magnesium than you should need to, because you were taking way more zinc than you need to. That's the thing about minerals, is they have an interrelationship with one another. And so if you overdo it with one, you're going to deficiency yourself in another. Or you're going to cause some sort of nervous system. That zinc, that has effects on the nervous system and the myelin sheath of the nervous system, stuff like that. So, and so, like, you also don't want to be deficient in these things. Zinc is wonderful at helping get harmful metals out of the self. So if, this old hair mineral analysis, I'm way too high in molybdenum or whatever. Oftentimes I would say, okay, let's take a therapeutic dose of zinc for 3 months. See if we can get as much of that out of you as possible with the zinc. But there's a limit. Minerals are to be respected. Take too much vitamin C, you just poop a whole bunch and get a bunch of cramps. Take too much zinc for too long of a time, other things can occur. So really, that is why you want to start asking questions and having a really good critical mind when it comes to taking your supplements, especially for your thyroid, because it is very mineral based at the end of the day, and it's very herb based. And so those herbs are going to have an awful large effect on the body, which is going to be very beneficial, but also you want to make sure that it's very individualized so that your body is being instructed to do the things that it is really needing to do for your balance, not for somebody else's balance or for some textbook's version of balance, but for your balance. That's what I'm about. That's why you get so specific. You learn the basics. That's why I'm giving you this stuff for free. Learn the basics and then let me individualize it for you. I think that's all I have to say about that. Is there anything else I want to say about minerals? I was going to talk about the food. Okay, quickly talking about the food. I wanted to say that in some bits of literature, and I don't see this as much anymore as I did a decade ago, but things like broccoli, cabbage, bok choy, soy, any brassicas have been identified as goitrogenic, which means that they actually can decrease thyroid hormone. I don't buy it, frankly. I think that's very short-sighted. And that's the nuts and bolts of it. I'm not going to beat around the bush on that one. I think that's very short-sighted. I eat a lot of these foods. They don't hurt me. I feel better when I have these foods. I juice them, right? When I'm juicing all these brassicas and this cabbage and all these other wonderful things, I don't eat a whole lot of soy. I'm a little, cautious about soy these days just because of the way it's manufactured and what they put on it. But I feel way better. And I have a thyroid condition. I feel way better after I've been juicing with these things. Bearing in mind that juice is medicinal, it also needs to be respected, especially if we're on blood thinners or if I have a cardiovascular condition. You want to be careful with your juicing or your kidney dysfunction or liver dysfunction. so you go start low, go slow. Just do an ounce. If you can, right, start juicing at an ounce, not a cup. But these things, I don't buy that they're going to cause low thyroid. I think that it needs to be looked at with curiosity and maybe go, okay, what else can we use to balance that out? But just because there is a property in a brassica that happens to be low hypothyroid producing doesn't mean there isn't also other properties that encourage thyroid production. Foods are very complex, and so those brassicas might have a hypothyroid, nutrient or phytonutrient in there that has been identified in nutrient literature. But have we also found things that are supportive of the thyroid in there? Absolutely we have. Absolutely we have. Okay? Take everything with a grain of unrefined sea salt that you read about the thyroid. And I think that's all I have to say about the thyroid. I think this is my last video unless I think of something else really important. So I hope you've enjoyed this series. I hope that it gave you a lot of food for thought and an ability to go and explore and experiment with your thyroid condition to just tweak it and make it as optimal for you as possible. Have a great day.